if anybody heard what happened or saw what happened at the Tim Hortons in Langley, British Columbia. Anybody? For those who missed it, I can reenact it for you. Woman storms into the Tims. She barges in and demands to use the washroom, but she's so rude, the staff deny her access. In retaliation, she defecates on the floor and just flings it at her. Now the video of Tiger Trixie's testy, turd-tossing tirade at Tim's goes viral. And if you watch that video, as I urge you to do, please recognize this woman for her talent. Think about it, in 8 seconds, she extrudes this log, clips her off like a cigar cutter, and just launches the thing. As Calgarians, I know many of us have seen professional cowboys achieve far less in 8 seconds at the greatest outdoor show on earth. Not only did this woman demonstrate impeccable sphincter control, she didn't throw like a girl. This lady flung her own dung like a coked up chimpanzee playing shortstop. Thank you. Speaking of shitty experiences, I got some bad news on the health front, folks. The medical lab called to say they were rejecting my stool sample. So now, after I got divorced and fired, even my dumps have been dumped. My defecation's deficient. I can't possibly claim to have my shit together. Let's tell you a little bit about myself, folks. Being named Fred, I always thought my parents could have done a much better job coming up with cool names for us kids. As I was complaining just the other day to my siblings, Jebediah and Clementine. I grew up at a different time, folks. A simpler time. When I was a kid, I joined a group called Wolf Cubs. I don't know if you know them. Cubs are boys between the ages of 8 and 10 years old who can't do sports. It's shocking to hear that the chiseled stud you see tonight was not always totally athletic, but I'm afraid it's true. Every gym class growing up was as awkward for me as Justin Trudeau would feel if he were trapped in a Mensa meeting. Sadly, I knew that my athletic ability was going to be passed on to my kids, dooming them to become Cubs themselves. I became a Cub leader mostly out of guilt. The Cub organization has done an outstanding job preventing creepy adults from becoming leaders. But they've been a lot less successful stopping satanic children from becoming Cubs. Some of these little bastards should just have been tasered. But the important thing, as always, is what I learned, and it really reinforced, the Cub experience reinforced something I've always known about myself, folks, which is that I am the opposite of a pedophile. I can't fucking stand other people's kids. Thank you for that, folks. Some glimmers of recognition. Thank you. The age category after Cubs is known as Scouts. Scouts are boys between the ages of 11 and 14 who still can't do sports and therefore don't get dates. I was a strong candidate, clearly. The Scout uniform at the time included a beret, if you can imagine, but not the kind you find at a secondhand store. Thank you. So, when I should have been on Tuesday nights, wearing a jean jacket outside a 7-Eleven, smoking a cigarette and attempting to meet girls, instead I was in a church basement with a bunch of other dudes, all of whom were wearing berets. Smarter kids figured out, folks, that if you're not that attractive to begin with, and you want to meet girls, probably strapping on an extra ugly uniform that's widely associated with a group of notorious nerds is not your best play. But I wasn't that bright. So I went directly from junior high Scouts to senior high marching band. Thank you. Marching band uniforms took the nerd to a totally different level. If you can picture a gold polyester suit, purple stripe down one leg, fun fur Orlon Busby hat sprayed with gold braid, in addition to being hideous, these outfits were also totally flammable, folks. I want to tell you that we performed with majorettes who were throwing fire batons above our heads as we performed, and it's really kind of a miracle we weren't all just incinerated in a gigantic polyester-fueled musical nerd fireball. Speaking of clothing, as I was thinking about what to wear tonight, I realized that nothing really goes with this skin color. White with red spots. I don't understand these Hollywood guys, middle-aged Hollywood guys about my age, who seem to think that anyone wants to see their middle-aged junk. I don't have that level of confidence in the product, folks. My chest is so hollow I could collect rainwater in it, which I'm hoping will help me achieve my life goal of homelessness in Vancouver. I guess you could say I'm sort of the opposite of a white supremacist. I'm more of a white inadequist. So with a lot of inadequacy and more spotty than sporty, clearly very few dates for me. Very few. I finally did get one date, but she sort of babbled to fill the awkward silence while I just prayed for sweet, sweet death. Years later, I found out she'd become a lesbian, and I think I deserve most of the credit for that. Happy to report that my girlfriend is much less lesbian. I know this because she dragged me to a Chris Pine movie. Who doesn't love Chris Pine? So, after 2 hours of pining for Pine, the lights come on and she turns to me with a look of what I can only describe as, I'll never forget it, profound disappointment. So I went up to the bathroom to have a little cry. And that's where I guess I noticed that the fluorescent lighting really brings out my giant purple eye bags. And the high-speed dryers make my hands look fat. I just wanted to share a bit of pain with you folks. Like a lot of Calgarians, I lost my job. Yeah, I appreciate the sympathy, thank you. But don't you worry, I won't be unemployed for long. Because like our Prime Minister, I've got that Bachelor of Arts degree in literature to fall back on, yeah. Sometimes I feel like Canada being led by Justin Trudeau is a bit like the whole country showing up to a gunfight, armed only with a selfie stick. I've tried to change my diet since I lost my job, folks. I'm trying to feed my kids a lot more free-range, locally grown, organic squirrel. Squirrel's an acquired taste, folks, but I think you've really got to try my flambé d'écureuil écrasé. Thank you for that recognition. Folks, that's squished squirrel on fire. It sounds so much better in French than what it really is, which is yard rat roadkill in a gasoline reduction. But folks, I regret to report that the kids won't eat squirrel 7 nights a week. I had to come up with a cheap squirrel substitute of my reduced income. Went to the IGA, found a fish called tilapia. Brought the tilapia home, made a nice tilapia lunch before we headed out to the zoo. We got to the hippo tank and noticed there's a school of fish circling around the hippo who we were told keep the tank clean by consuming a lot of the hippo, let's just say, excrement. Sensing a teachable moment as outstanding parents inevitably do, I turned to the keeper and said, "Sir, if you don't mind, what's the name of that helpful shit-eating fish you got in the tank there?" He said, "Well, that'd be tilapia." Yeah. And folks, that's the last time anyone in our family ever ate tilapia. I guess that's maybe less of a joke and more of a public service announcement. Yeah. So, what else was I going to tell you about? Let me see. Oh, yeah. Anybody else? No, I'm going to tell you that I actually went through my first pot check stop the other day. Anybody else had this experience? Yeah, it's a new thing. The police can check our saliva for cannabis, but only if they have reasonable suspicion. So you got to watch for a totally new, very low-tech check stop. But the cop just reaches in your car window with a giant bag of Doritos. cracks them open and checks you for drool. The cops have had to go low-tech with pot because of the genius of Justin Trudeau. That's kind of a theme with me. Not only did Justin legalize pot before they could even detect impairment at all, but the only machines the government approved to even measure the presence of pot have an awful lot in common with a BC Department of Highways employee. Neither of them works below 5 degrees Celsius, folks. Not even kidding. So if you ever wanted to get high and get on the highway, let the good times roll, folks. There has never been a better time. I'm going to leave you with just one more anecdote. I'm going to return to the coffee shop theme. Anybody else have trouble with Starbucks? Getting your name wrong? Anyone? My name's got 4 letters. F-R-E-D. That's 1 syllable. Watching barista Brittany concentrate a little harder than you'd expect. She scrawls on my cup. Minutes later, her teammate, barista Michaela, calls out, "Tall mocha ready for..." And she squints at the cup. She goes, "Sorry, sir, is it Fred? Or fired?" She shows me the cup. It says F-I-R-E-D. I said, "You know what, Michaela, you got me. If I'm honest, it's both. Fred and fired." Listen, I don't suppose you folks got any job openings here. Because I've got a Bachelor of Arts degree in literature, and I am fantastic at spelling. My name's Fred Kerr. I want to thank you for listening.